Welcome to The Bottom Line. I'm Pastor Rick Utze from Maranatha Community Fellowship in Plain City, Ohio. Most of you have probably heard the joke about where does an 800-pound gorilla sit? And the answer, of course, is anywhere it wants to. And that whole thing goes to a saying that we have that something's so powerful that it can get its own way, no matter what the rights of other people are. And so when we heard a couple weeks ago of a little child who was at the Cincinnati Zoo that somehow was able to fall into the exhibit where the gorillas were, it was obviously a very horrifying situation for that family, for everybody who was there watching it, because this gorilla had this child and was able to just drag it, obviously at will, wherever it wanted to. And we probably all heard the outrage that animal had to be put down, had to be shot in order to save the child's life, because you could never tell at what moment that 800-pound gorilla would, even if accidentally, kill that child. And so, there was outrage that said, hey, the parents should be held responsible for that. Why did the gorilla have to die? And yes, I agree. It is sad that a gorilla, a beautiful animal like that, so rare, almost extinct, had to die. But there is no comparing the value of a gorilla with a human life. I mean, it seems like the worldviews between a Christian worldview and how God created us and the worldview of our secular culture is just diverging at ever-increasing rates. And the Bible tells us that in Genesis 1:31, where it talks about creation, that God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And there was evening and there was morning, and it was the sixth day. So he looked at all creation, said it was good. And God created the animals. He created everything good. And I agree that we should be good stewards of that. But it also says, a few verses before that God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let him have dominion over the fish of the sea and the birds of the heavens, over livestock, over all the earth, and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So God created man in his image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. So here it's clear that God created the whole world, the whole universe, but he created man special. He created man in the image of himself, in the image of God, and we have much more worth than any animal, anything that creeps on the earth. I even saw an article just today about how a frog got ran over by a mower in Australia, and the lady was so distraught she called a hospital 500 miles away. They got it. An airline agreed to fly it there. Anyway, it's now living in an aquarium without sight in one eye, and it's just crazy the extent people are going to over animals when we look at what God created in human beings. And so God made it clear in his word that, it talks about sparrows and how we're of much more value than a whole flock of sparrows, even though God does notice even when a sparrow falls. God noticed when that gorilla was killed. But our worth is so much more than that, because Jesus came down to earth as a man, as a human being, so that he could empathize with our weaknesses, so he could understand what we go through, so we could understand the temptation, so we could overcome them, so he could help us in our time of need, to give us eternal life and hope for the future. I mean, God did that for human beings. And so no matter how beautiful, and here's the bottom line, no matter how beautiful and rare and valuable that gorilla was, I am of much more value in Jesus' eyes than that gorilla could ever be. And so are you. So the gorilla died at the hands of man, but Jesus willingly gave himself and died for you and me. Do you believe that? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time on The Bottom Line.